Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Ladek, and today we are going to continue our series on how to read food labels. This next section is on calories, and this is a really important part because this is our source of energy. Now, calories is actually broken down into three main areas: fat, carbohydrates, protein. What we really want is we want the majority of our energy to come from carbohydrates and fat, complex carbohydrates, not simple ones like sugars. We also want our protein content to be not extremely high. Overall, calories in the food labels are based on an average diet of about 2,000 to 2,200 calories per day. And this is both for men and women, women a little bit on the lower end, men a little bit on the higher end at times, but that's on average. That's really what has been recommended. Now, in terms of contents of a package, you have to look at the serving and portion size compared to how many servings there are in each package to really understand how much you're going to eat. Then you can calculate out what is your calories. So let's say, for example, something has 40 calories on the food label, but there's 8 servings in the box of, let's say, pasta or whatever it is, and you're going to eat 3/4 of the box in one sitting. Well, then you actually have to multiply it out by about 6 to understand that the amount of pasta calories you're getting is going to be 6 times 40. So now when you're going to add other stuff to it, you're going to also increase the amount of calories. So you're going to add that in. So if you're going to have a pasta sauce, you're going to add this, you're going to add that, you're going to add cheese, you're going to do whatever. But the more that you add into it, the higher the total calorie content is. And if you're going to heavier things, meat and etc., your calories are going to really go extremely high. Now, the next component of the food labels is really about fat. Fat is the first component of calories. Now, fat is essential for us. We do need a certain amount of fat per day, but we want it to be on the lower end. We don't want the majority of our calories coming from fat. Fat is really useful in helping some of our muscles and our heart function and etc., but we want it to be unsaturated fat. Saturated fat tends to block things up in our arteries and it does a bunch of damage. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. So we want more unsaturated fat and polyunsaturated and less saturated. Now, the other thing is there is another kind of fat called trans fat. And trans fat is generally, it's a manufactured fat that has been shown to block arteries pretty heavily. The only other source of those, so hydrogenated oils is a good example, which have been banned in parts of the US and other places and in parts of Europe. But the other source of trans fat comes from animal source foods like meat and chicken and etc. all have a certain amount of trans fat. So limiting those as much as possible will also reduce your trans fat. Now, the manufacturers are actually not obligated to disclose if there is less than 0.5% trans fat in the actual packaging. They don't have to disclose it. So it's up to you to understand based on the list of ingredients if there's a risk of trans fats being in there, like hydrogenated oils or margarine, etc. And again, we want those to be as low as possible. Now, in terms of the other part that is related to fat is also cholesterol, which is, for us as living creatures, as all of us, humans, animals, sea animals, all of us are made of cholesterol. In fact, it's in our cell membranes. In fact, it's a big part of how we function, but we are all able to make it ourselves. So ingesting dietary cholesterol is not great for us. It also does damage our arteries. So on our food labels, we want to make sure that's as little as possible. So in summary, about calories in general, we want to kind of stick to the recommended amount of around 2,000 to 2,200 per day. And also in terms of fat, we do need a small amount of it, but again, we want it to be limited. So try to make it as low as possible. And if there is fat, unsaturated is better. Plant sources are great for unsaturated fat, but there even are a few saturated fats in plants. But the majority of saturated fats will come from animal source foods. So you want to limit those as much as possible and focus on as much whole food plant-based as you can. I'm Dr. Ladek, and you can follow me at canadalifestylemedicine.ca or you can follow me on social media. Thank you.